pass. That's excellent. Let's get to the mundane to start off with. You have two sets of minutes from the meeting of Thursday, August 12th, 2021, and the meeting of Thursday, August 18th, 2021. I'm going to do it separately, even though it's a little bit of a pain in the neck to take the vote. Can I hear a motion to approve? First of all, if anyone doesn't have the minutes, can you speak up? Thank you. May I hear a motion to approve the minutes of August 12th, 2021?
So moved.
No, jump in. Second.
Second.
All right. Am I the second or did somebody else second it?
I seconded it, Dave.
Okay, great. Any discussion? Any questions, concerns, discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye when I announce your name. Mayor?
Aye.
Butch?
Aye.
Chief?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Amy? Steve? Jen?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
David? Aye. Jean Wall? Okay, those minutes have been passed. Now the minutes of April 18th, 2021. May I hear a motion in a second?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Need a second.
I will.
Second.
Chief Strand.
You get your name in the minutes. Any discussion? Oh, hearing none. If you want to approve the minutes, please say aye. Mayor?
Aye.
Butch?
Aye.
Chief?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Amy? Steve? Jen?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
David Singer? Aye. Jean Wall?
You. Aye.
Aye. Say aye.
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Well trained. Okay, let's see the new agenda, not the old agenda. Okay, so this meeting's been scheduled specifically to talk about two things. The first thing is the temporary fire station discussion, which is regarding 13 Prospect Street rental for office space. There has been a temporary fire station subcommittee meeting, which we will hear about in a minute. But first, for the benefit of members of the committee who weren't or didn't listen to that meeting, and members of the public who weren't or did not listen to that meeting, I'd like to present the issue again. So, Chief, can you please present your memo for the record of what it is you're looking to have us do?
Sure. Give me 1 minute here.
Sure. It was, but thank you, Jaden. I noticed you came in late. Thank you.
Well, I don't. Let me just go into it without the memo in hand. When the trailers were delivered, if we all remember back to when we authorized the trailers, the original trailer was supposed to be one unit with 4 trailers put together in 1 unit. Because of cost and availability, we voted to accept what the trailers were that were available on hand, and it turned it into 2 separate, a dorm trailer and an office trailer. The office trailer that was designed on paper, fit the need of what we needed for the department. However, when you go and actually see the space that's provided, we found that it was a little bit smaller than we anticipated. And so during the daytime hours, we could have as many as 9 people trying to operate off of computer desks out of 4 offices. Not only was that problematic, but the ability to have a private conversation in the trailers is also going to be problematic. So we looked at some space, and a space was offered to us at no rent in town. However, that wasn't going to be possible. So we looked at 8 to 10 other sites, and 13 Prospect Street kind of just fell in our lap. And there's a spot in 13 Prospect Street that would fulfill all our needs. I'm getting really bad feedback. Would fulfill all our needs with very little work to the building. And so we looked at it. We talked with the state who owns the building, and they're willing to give us the space for at no rent and no utilities. We just have to fix up the offices that are down there. They need just a little minor work. So that's where the request that I put in for was to cover the cost of the architect fees, which will file permits with the state and whatnot, and then a little bit of work that needs to be done in those. And basically, it doubles the office space that we have. Which gives us a lot more flexibility than we currently had. So, for example, the firefighters, not the officers on duty, but the firefighters that work the ambulance, didn't really have an adequate space for them to do reports when they got back to the temporary firehouse. This change allows that. So it's not like we are creating a ton more space for us to operate. It just lets us spread out a little bit more than what we currently have.
Chief, can you describe again how much it will cost and the breakdown of those costs, please?
I'm going to go by memory here, but I'm asking for $24,500. Of that, up to $7,500 would be for the architectural work. The remainder of that would be done to replace an exterior door, which is about $2,000, and then some minor interior work, but very minor. There's very little work that we have to do.
And as far as you understand, for making that one-time, those improvements to the space, the Commonwealth of Mass will not be charging us rent.
That's correct.
We stay longer than we need to at the temporary fire station. That would mean no rent as that continues, correct?
Right. I mean, the lease agreement that we have spells out the time frame, but as long as there's no other programs or anything that need to go in there at the state level, I would assume that could continue past where we're at.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
The state is and the people that occupy that building are very excited about us being neighbors downstairs.
I bet.
I should offer say this as well. The one of the programs that's in there has a large conference room on the 3rd floor, and also have offered us that space to have department staff meetings and things like that. So I think it kind of fell in our lap, and I think it's worthwhile to do, and it makes it a lot easier on the firefighters.
So what you said was that not only will you get to use the space that you're fixing up, but they're adding in an additional space that you can use as a conference room that's already improved, correct?
They did indicate that would be an option for us. I'm not. That's not it's just a bonus for us that we'll have this
We're not
space.
improving that space.
Yep.
All right, correct. Thank you. Okay. So the temporary subcommittee, the subcommittee for the temporary fire station, could be a temporary subcommittee, met last week and went through this. And the chair is David Muspertallo. So David, can you describe what was discussed and what the recommendation was, please?
I can do that. And if you hear back, can you guys hear me okay? I'm not on video.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I'm at the roundhouse. So if you hear noise, that's what it is. We met last week and we discussed all the information that the chief had presented to us. I actually did meet the chief and did tour the space. I think that one of the things that also not sure it was mentioned, but one of the important things to me when touring the temporary housings for the fire department was the public having to go to the temporary fire department with a lot of activity going on. I also felt that it was important that the public had a different space to go to. Between the firefighters getting called for calls and people in and out and reports and then making dinner for themselves and everything else. A lot of activity for the public to have to maneuver around. So I think this is a great opportunity for us and for the firefighters to have this space. So we discussed what the chief had brought up. It was pretty cut and dry, not a whole ton of questions. And we did make a positive recommendation unanimously to go forward with this and bring it to the board, David, tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to open it up to the full committee. Any questions of anyone? Neil and Dennis are also here to answer questions if you have any. Nobody, huh? Okay. All right. Well, if that's the case, then I'd like to have a motion to expend $24,500 to make the repairs noted to the office space at 13 Prospect Street.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. So many things here. Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Please say aye if you're in favor. Mayor? Mayor, are you in favor?
She's unmuted now. Aye.
Great. Butch?
Aye.
Chief?
Aye.
David Muscaritalo?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Amy? Steve? Jen?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
David Singer? Aye. Gene Wall?
Aye.
Terrific. Okay, it's unanimous. So the decision's been made that we can spend the extra money. Chief, you now have the authorization to go ahead. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. By this vote and getting the, getting the agreement in place, we'll be able to move our office furniture once now instead of twice. So thank you very much for your support. Appreciate it.
You're welcome from all of us. The only other thing on the agenda is architectural review. Neil, you and Dennis could lead this discussion, or Katrina, or whoever's doing it. But I'll leave it to you to start off, Neil, please.
Just in terms of an update, we are what I would say at the brass tacks stage of the temporary fire station. We've got fire alarm testing, sprinkler testing was done today. We're in the last stages. We've had plumbing and electrical sign-offs inside of the apparatus bays and inside of the offices. So we'll be finishing our inspections this week and are expecting at a minimum a TCO from the building department. That's a temporary certificate of occupancy, certainly no later than Thursday or Friday of this week. And we're expecting first shift Monday morning, 7 a.m. bright and early operations out of the temporary fire station going forward. Mayor, why are you laughing?
Because she's on mute.
I'm happy to hear that. It's a long time coming, and best of luck to the firefighters getting yourselves moved in so that you can be there Monday morning.
Just like to, the only thing I would like to add is, again, to recognize Marlo and George and Fernando and all of the crews from the city that have really worked tirelessly to make this happen. I think they absolutely deserve the credit.
How about a WebEx applause, round of applause? All right, even if you, there you go, Adam. I like it. Have to find that button.
And Neil, we also want to thank you and Roger for being there, and Roger particularly for being there many days when we needed eyes on the scene. because certainly going out to visit there, we could not do every day or even every week. We will be out there tomorrow, as Neil said, to do our walkthrough again and make sure that we can sign off this week.
Another little round of applause. We can applaud here for Roger. He's done a great.
Get those hands up.
Okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
so a lot of,
Thank you.
if we're thanking people, it means we're very near the end. So that's a good thing. Neil, what are we going to be talking about today? With the
We would like to confirm with the city that it is appropriate for us to go ahead and schedule the geotechnical work and any other exploratory work that needs to happen at Maine and Coombs.
Well, David,
yes.
I believe there is still a little bit of work left to do there. I need to confirm that probably now tomorrow. So if you need that absolutely today, I don't believe I can give it to you, but it is imminent. So
You mean in terms of needing us to have site control? We do not have site control yet.
No, that wasn't really my intention. Similar to the investigative work that we had done, I can't remember now, January timeframe when we did the exploratories. We would like to dig some test pits for the geotechnical engineer to verify the bearing strata at the foundation locations. Help me out, Dennis. What else are we looking for at this time?
With the geotech, certainly we're going to be looking for what types of foundations we can use and get that information to our structural engineers. I don't believe we're looking for anything other than just straight geotech.
Right, and survey has already been completed, so we've located the lock corners.
Yep. Yeah, and then Adam and Kate will be talking about some other things. We're trying to find a height to set the building at because we're dealing with slope. We'll figure that out. I'll show the committee when we get there.
So is this something you need to do right away, or can it wait a week or two?
The sooner the better, Mr. Singer. The question is, has all of the work that needed to be completed at that site been done for remediation?
The answer is no. So I think we should just at least wait till that. Yes, Chief.
So should I put a motion out there so we can discuss this?
I don't think there's a motion. I don't think we can make a motion.
So I would like to try to attempt a motion if it's okay. I would like to authorize to do the geotech work for the Coombs and Main Street property once the mayor authorizes it to be done. That way we don't have to meet again to authorize the mayor to do it. Once the city is satisfied on her end, then she could start the work without us having to meet again.
Okay. I guess I'd have to understand. I've never chaired a construction group before. Do all the different aspects of the work that go on out there need the committee's approval? Is that a? I mean, I guess it's a rhetorical question. We can make that motion. Somebody second it.
I think David, as a point of information, this is really no different than the exploratory work that we had done back in January. We're looking for either approval of the current owners to mobilize a backhoe or a drill rig to go out on site and drill some holes in the ground and then bury them. And to the extent that that happens outside of areas that were previously impacted by contaminants or other unsightly materials, I don't see any reason why that work or coordination of that work could not happen at this point in time.
Okay. Well, that's a different, I agree with you on that piece, but we're gonna need their permission, so we'll
Yep.
have to get their permission. Butch, you have a question?
I was just gonna say that maybe the mayor can just reach out to our attorney and our attorney can reach out to theirs and just get permission to do that and then notify Neil. I think that's the process in the past, hasn't it been?
Yes.
That can certainly be done.
Okay. But I guess I'll have the answer for the next meeting about every step of the way being approved by the committee. But again, this motion is fine. So we have a second, by the way? I don't remember a second. Butch, right, I'm sorry. Any more discussion? Okay.
I was, oh, wait a minute,
Yes,
sorry.
ma'am.
I was frozen there for a while. It probably didn't matter. It didn't take me long to get back on. So I'll, if I don't need to, if I have all the information I need, then I'll do what I've been asked to do.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll ask for permission, and if this motion gets approved, then we have you have permission to get this going. So that'd be great. All right. So if there's no further discussion, all in favor, please say aye when I read your name. Mayor,
Aye.
Butch,
Aye.
Chief,
Aye.
David, David, you might be on mute. All right, Carol,
Aye.
Amy, Steve,
Water company that
hold on there. Somebody please turn up. Please go on mute. I'm gonna take a roll call. David, can you go on mute, please? Thank you.
We're having quite a, I am on my end, having very much of a broadband. I asked everybody to mute. Members of the public have not muted, or they weren't muted earlier. It looks like they are now, at least one or two of them. So I think maybe we're okay. It's just, I'm not sure what the issue is.
Okay, well, I'm up to Jen. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Thank you. Jean?
Uh,
David, aye. Okay. The motion passes, so the authorization is there. Now, wasn't there another, weren't we going to talk about some other things, Neil?
I had asked Adam and Katrina if they could speak briefly in a way of reminding the committee about the outward appearance of the new fire station at Main and Coombs. That would be a decision that we would be making relatively early on in the design process. And so I felt it would be beneficial to remind everyone of the renderings that we had previously shown the committee. I mean, they date back at this point over a year. So I just wanted to kind of jog everyone's memory and start the committee's creative juices flowing, if you will, with how the exterior of the building may look from Main Street. With that, I'll turn it over to Adam and to Katrina, please.
Thank you, Neil. Chairman, I don't know if we're showing the information on the screen, whether everyone can see it. We're hoping that you can. And Adam, I would ask if you have the renderings handy to have those showing first, as Neil was talking about. So the two renderings that are from October of 2020, almost a year ago, and these were extremely preliminary. We had two views or two model types. And we also want to share with you built examples of different images, different views, and approaches to the exterior design of the building. So Adam, if you could share those pictures as well. So this is a bit more of a modern look. We just want to show you a smattering of different things, and most of these are in areas that are entrances to the community. So we are well aware of the placement of this building on the site in your city, in your town, and how it is part of the landscape there. This particular one is also a bit modern, has solar on the top, and different elements, a lot of the bays that we're going to have. Okay, keep going. This one is built as well. This is down in Princeton, New Jersey, and has some similar characteristics to one of the ways that we're leaning more towards now that we've started the design process with the chief and getting feedback for how the bays need to be laid out for operations and how the building will be laid out. And we're looking at structure. So keep going. That's another view of the Princeton project. This one is Fort Washington, Pennsylvania. That's the inside. This is Lexington, Massachusetts. So you can see we have a variety of vernaculars that we use in our designs. We're not stuck on just one type of material or shape. We want to make sure that it works programmatically first and foremost for the chief and the fire department, but also stands as a symbol of the community. So there are a lot of parts and pieces that go into that in recognizing not just the history that goes behind the fire department in each locale, but also the modern needs of the department. This one is in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. And what you see on the right-hand side in that previous picture is a kind of a museum area that is a separate area within the building. So when you go in there and look at that area, you're not in the operational section, the private area or the secure area of the fire station. And this one is in down on Long Island, I believe. Which one is this? This is Manorville. Okay, so thank you, Adam, for showing those images. We just wanted to start having everyone think about it. And I will say, with the shape of the building that we're starting to come up with the chief, it's certainly leaning more towards the modern look, which you're seeing in some of these photos. So with that, was there anything else, either Dennis or Adam or Neil, you wanted to add?
Nothing from me, Kate. I'm good.
Since it's not an agenda item this week, we would suggest that in a future meeting, not too long from now, that we get some discussion from your end and opinions expressed, but we are certainly leaning a certain way, and we will present what we are thinking about for discussion.
Katrina, I think it might be of benefit if we could do a PDF of the presentation and distribute it to the committee so that they can review it and ponder it, if you will, in their away time. And then the next time, perhaps we can have some more genuine conversations about what moved them and quite frankly, what doesn't, so that we can sort of try to hone that discussion as we move forward.
Sure, and you're talking about what was just presented, correct?
Please.
And if you could, when you do that, cite, I know you verbally cited some of the communities, and sometimes it's very obvious on the fire stations, and sometimes it's not. So for us to be able to say, oh, I like this one, or I like that one, or think maybe we ought to combo one and the other. It would be helpful if we knew the names of the communities just by way of, I mean, if you want to number them like you did, that's fine too.
We can certainly add that to the presentation, no problem.
Butch?
Just a question for Dennis, if you could just quickly speak to the process we used when we were doing the public safety complex and how he toured the town and took various pictures of buildings and tried to incorporate those into the different designs that he was presenting. It was a pretty good process he went through, and it's just add to the discussion, that's all.
Yeah, no, that you bring up a good point, Butch. At the time, and again, given the location, which was across from the hospital, we were looking at a different aesthetic and a different vernacular. But he brings up a good point in that we did go around the town looking at different buildings, schools, churches, municipal buildings, certainly the ones on Franklin Street, to come up with more of a historical look. And was there actually any connection to any of those looks, or were they just disparate buildings? And then we utilized some of that information and used it to feed the aesthetic of the building. What we're doing here is a little bit different in that, we're right on the edge of the city as you enter it. And I think we're looking for something maybe not historic, because we're never going to really get that historic look, but maybe something a little more on the modern side. I don't see where the process is any different. We still go through the same process, we just do it internally.
The process.
Answer that, Butch, or do you want more detail?
Oh, that's good, thanks, Dennis.
All right, sure.
Dennis, so what you're saying is that you already had a chance to go around the city of Greenfield for before and look to see if you could find some consistency to the historic architecture. But that was when the building was going to be in a location that was more tucked in with everything. Now that we're on the edge of town and it's more like a, wow, that's the first thing you see as you drive up the hill, you're leaning, or I don't know what the chief is thinking, but you're leaning towards more modern building. And if that's the case, how does the committee participate in that discussion?
I think the way it's going to work, David, is that ultimately, you folks live there. This is your community. It's your fire station. You're going to have to live with it for the next 50 to 75 years. We're going to definitely want the input from the committee as to what fits in Greenfield, what looks right for Greenfield. And as what, Kate said originally, first and foremost, it just has to be operationally correct so that the chief and all the firefighters can operate out of this thing. But as far as the aesthetic and the materials go, you're the community, and we're going to need your input as to what we're putting together makes sense for your city.
Okay. Katrina, can you take that off now, unless anybody else wants to see it, so I could see the whole committee? Thank you.
I believe we still have to discuss the
Okay, but if you can
item.
take that down for the moment, Adam.
Okay, sure.
Oh, I'm sorry, Adam. No, you can leave it up. I just don't want to miss anybody if there's a question. Yes, Jean.
I wonder if we could also have a cost analysis along with this. I mean, I want the fire station to have every single thing that the firemen need, but if swooping glass costs more than cinder blocks, and those are the two choices, I'd like to know kind of, are we staying within budget with swooping glass and et cetera?
It's a great question, Gene, and it's going to be up to us to make sure that the differences are not large enough to actually affect the building, so that anything we show you is going to be close to budget. It can vary, obviously, as you say, swooping glass versus block. Obviously, there's differences, but it's up to us to make sure it's relatively within budget before we even show it to you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor. Ed, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I wasn't trumping the mayor. I hope I wasn't.
You want the mayor to speak last. Go ahead.
Okay, very good. Hey, I just wanted to throw in a comment that I've heard from a lot of people in town that they don't want glass. They're not very happy with some of the new buildings that have been built downtown, and particularly the courthouse, Olive Street. So they want to sit that I've heard from a lot of people, and as a city councilor, I just have to kind of like throw that in there that constituencies that I heard from do not want a big glass building. So just throw my 2 cents in.
Thank you. Before the mayor, okay, go ahead, Mayor. Thank you for waiting.
Sure. Well, I'll make a comment on what Ed just said, but that wasn't what I was planning on doing. The advantages to glass, and I think both Carol and architects will agree. The advantages to glass is an energy efficiency mechanism called daylighting. The more glass you have, the more daylight you have, and the less electricity you have to use. So if that's still a concept, environmentally and energy efficiency, then that is the advantage to more glass. But what I was going to say is, this is the first round, and thank you everyone for giving us all a view on what can happen as far as the design process goes. Jean Wall and I have participated in the library design, so we have an inkling of how that those meetings went. And we were unsure at this time as to how these would go, because they are two different animals, a fire station and a library. You have an opportunity, I suspect, and certainly two different budgets. You have an opportunity, I suspect, to have a little more design into a library than you do in more elements than you might a fire station, because by its nature, as you say, there are many things that the fire department needs, both in terms of space and probably how that space plays out in the design. So we had an opportunity on the library building committee to see a number, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but let's say it started with a number of designs. I'm going to say it was in the neighborhood of 8. And we went through this process, as I don't know how many were just shown, but we went through this process of, in essence, commenting on them and eventually voting and eliminating them, as I recall properly, and Jean could certainly pop in, eliminating some altogether, and sometimes that was very clear, and keeping others, and then ultimately, in a way, kind of blending a couple of different designs. So that's a process that the two of us are used to, and if it's similar to your process, great. But I think at some point you and the chief are the people that do have to guide us professionally on how to make that design so that it works for the fire department. So that's one piece of it. Now, one of the ones, just seeing those that you put up there, was that I liked, because it did blend a more traditional feel in the terms of the surfaces, the outside, how they're made, was the city or the town of Lexington. Now, clearly the town of Lexington has way more money than we do, but I think if I recall, and this goes back many, many meetings, over a year ago, and as you said, the town of Lexington had $17 million. Of course, it was probably a few years ago. I could be wrong about that, but
You're in the ballpark. You're in the ballpark,
yeah.
Mayor.
Okay. So I like what looked like red brick. Clearly, that was not likely Lane brick, right? It was some sort of surface that scored to look like red brick. What is the I mean, that's the kind of questions I think you would get. So if you want to answer that question today, fine, but we can wait for the design.
Yeah, I was
That's
gonna
correct.
say,
It's
thank
the real thing.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
keep it on this track, at least for this moment.
Yeah.
Anybody
So
else have any?
that's it for now,
Thank you, Mary.
David.
Thank you. Okay, so Adam, why don't you make your next presentation? Thank you for giving me the group back.
Okay, so Adam's going to bring up the first kind of round of layout for the bay and bay support spaces. And if you will notice, if you zoom out just a little bit, the portions of the building that have not yet been figured out are the bunker areas, the public space, the admin, all of the smaller spaces that support the services that are provided here. So we started with an important meeting with the chief last week to work out, after we had gathered programmatic information in August, I believe, how we could make these bays work on the site for access with all the vehicles, their turning radii, the stacking of the vehicles, etc. So if you can zoom in there a little bit, Adam. What we have currently laid out, and this works with the structure, we're already thinking about how tall is this, what's the massing, but how can we keep this structure affordable? And by splitting the bays into two parts, they're really all open to one another. There is a mezzanine area with support spaces down the middle, in a sense, that kind of those yellow rooms with a mezzanine above it. That mezzanine is open on both sides. So if you're up at mezzanine level, which is roughly 10.5 to 11 feet, it's clear across the bays there. That allows for training, for runs of pipe, for structure, etc. And this is your tall space. So we had a great discussion with the chief. I'm trying to keep it high level here. We talked about, and Chief, you're seeing this, I think, for the first time since Friday. We did extend the front of the two northern bays to allow for stacking of ambulances, and we are talking about the future growth of the department in terms of vehicles, what they could have in the future. So that you're not stuck in a building and looking at 5-10 years, do we need to add on here? With that being said, we have worked with the chief to lay out the spaces with the chief and his crew to organize the spaces that make sense for them in this way. Now, this is just, again, very vanilla box. We don't have any elevation of this. This is not modeled where we can spin a 3D model in front of anyone yet because we need to work out the rest of the building. But this was the primary space. We wanted to update the group on where we were and show that to you. Chief, do you want to add anything to that?
No, you've hit everything that we've talked about. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so Adam, if you zoom out a little bit, and I know we did talk with the chief about the property. I don't know if that's something that should be discussed in this committee meeting or if that should wait until another day.
What's that?
In terms of the property, we're looking at the Coombs Street side, and there may have been, and I apologize for not being aware what is happening with the property to the south, but also on the Coombs Street side, whether any of that could be abandoned and perhaps added to the property.
Can you show with your hand where that might be?
Adam is circling that area.
To the left.
To the left, south of where that residence currently is.
I see, but that's the west of the property. I'm sorry.
That's the west of the property, correct. So there's two pieces that we're talking about, that Combs Street side. And this is regarding variances that may need to be asked for on the site for either parking or setbacks, the way it's currently laid out, and whether part of that street could be abandoned and made part of the parcel, as well as the piece of land that's to the south. And I don't know that we've got an update on the status of that.
Yeah,
Mayor, the
so
land, the parcel to the south was the piece that we had approached Mass DOT about.
That's the piece that's now circled, that has the highlights.
That has the bubble around it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if I could jump in real quick, that parcel from DOT is not in play right now.
Not in
The
play.
initial response was not favorable.
The response.
I can add to that.
Please do, Mayor.
Well, the chief is correct. However, in the email from Mass DOT, he did explain that that property is actually under the control of yet another bureaucratic division, that it's a planes, trains, and automobiles type of thing. It's under the control of yet another division that does control trains, which is that piece is next to the train tracks, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And that he was forwarding that. I didn't learn this till late last week, if not over the weekend. That he was forwarding that information. No, I'm sorry. I looked up the former email, which was back in July, I believe, to Mass DOT. And meaning, and essentially what he was saying is we can't independently make that decision on our own. We have to go to whatever this other organization. And I didn't realize this question was going to get asked. So I don't have the name of that organization, but long story short, he did forward it on to that person. I have yet to hear from that person. So I will need to reach out to that department. And he did give us a contact, I believe, and pursue it with them. So all is not completely lost, but chief is correct right now, today, it is not favorable.
Thank you, Mayor.
We're
The
losing people left and right, okay.
Yep. So part of the reason I'm bringing it up right now, as you're looking at the plan on the screen, is we want to make sure that the building, as such, in terms of footprint, in the economy of the building, can fit on the site appropriately. If you zoom in on the lower right-hand corner of the bay, where we've placed it, this is pretty much the optimum location right now. We cannot push the building further to the east or rotate it or do any other things because of those types of site constraints. So along with that property to the south, as well as the Coombs Street side, we want to be talking about those things now so that we know in the future whether we will have some breathing room on one side or the other.
Understood.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Katrina and Adam and Dennis. Is there any more of your presentation? Oh, I have a question. So, Katrina, what you're saying then is that the building area, regardless of the design around it, is pretty much that space, right? This is the best use of the space in terms of parking and where the bay will be and where the other parts of the fire station will be, correct?
That is correct.
So there's really not a lot of choices that we have about setting that up.
Correct.
So the only thing that we're talking about, which was the point of the beginning of this, was the idea of what the design itself will look like to make the building have its outward appearance, like dressing it for the day.
Yes,
So,
yes, but part of what is tempering what the look may be is the structure, and this is why I'm talking about economy of structure. When you look at the bays, if we had all 5 bays together, we would be looking at a heftier structure. So by parting them in half, that reduces the cost. So when we reduce costs like that and make the structure simpler, that allows us to spend money in a different way on a different part of the project within the budget. And that can
right, so
affect what the outward appearance is on the building.
Gotcha. But to follow what Gene was saying, if on a practical level and a cost level, this is the best, this is the most efficient, then the next step would be to design around that rather than to create a design first and then design it around engineer it around that design, correct? We're gonna go the engineering of the structure location first, and then we're gonna talk about the design that will suit that structure.
The exterior envelope, yes.
The exterior of it, right, exactly. Okay. All right, Adam, can you put me back in touch with everybody? I feel so alone. Okay, thank you.
Not a problem.
Questions of that presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question since I wasn't part of the library process. If either Neil, Dennis, Katrina, Adam, if the mayor and Gene want to chime in. So what exactly are we going to, should the committee be looking towards over the next several months? Is this all now, this is like the beginning, this is the intro, like your first day of class. And then from here on in, we're going to have more real specific presentations to start in a sequence that you think is appropriate. Obviously, I don't know what that sequence would be, but if anybody could chime in, so the committee could appreciate that starting maybe the next meeting or maybe the meeting after, we will start to be thinking about some of the more of the details. Can somebody please explain what's going to happen to the committee along those lines? You don't have to get too deep in the weeds about it, but just a general sense so we could understand what we're going to be doing.
Right.
you.
Certainly, I'll jump in there, Chairman. We will have, as we've had in the past, somewhat of a schedule laid out so that the committee will know when we're looking for specific input. And as you said, today was kind of the first smattering of information about the entire design of the project. By the next meeting, I'm hoping to have a basic layout of that schedule so that everyone understands we'll be looking at elevations or a 3D massing or different materials, etc. But part of the design process that's held outside the meetings is us working with the chief, working with our consultants. We're hoping to have that kickoff meeting this week to make sure that they're all on board. Certainly, obviously, the geotechnical getting out there his information so that we have the structural engineer already working on what those foundations are like, etc. It all follows in a logical process so that, in several months from now, you'll have a better idea of what the design looks like. You may have some interior views, that type of thing. And you'll have everyone on the committee will have had a chance for input. That's kind of the top view.
Okay, great. Thank you. So when can we expect that schedule?
I was hoping to have that tentative schedule set up for the next meeting of this committee.
Great, thank you so much. Jen, I see you, but you haven't raised your hand, so I'm going to go to the mayor.
Oh, thank you. I don't, oh, there you are, Jan. I just, this is more of a comment, but I think it does come with a request. The difference between right now and designing this building, having the committee input on it, and the library building, believe it or not, that was pre-COVID. For a good number of those meetings, not all of them, but a good number of them, we were in person. We were in the John Zahn Center. We were using the projection system then. It was a lot easier to see both the designs and in particular in the latter part of that time frame, the floor plans. This to me, unless there's other people here who are on large monitors, this to me is challenging because they are small. No matter how much you zoom out, they are still very small. It's difficult to read, et cetera, et cetera. So by way of that comment, as much information prior to a meeting on that we can absorb with PDFs, those kinds of things in hand, so we can print them out, so we can look at them, so we can make our comments, the better I think we'll be able to help you, because I have no idea when we'll be able to conduct these meetings in person again right now.
Katrina, are you responding to that? And then I'll let Jen talk. Go ahead, Katrina. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like to say that, or suggest if we can, what I'd like to do is provide the information that you are requesting with the agenda of future meetings, if that makes sense. And I certainly want to hear that input.
Okay. I'll make note of that.
Thank you. Jen?
Actually, Mayor, I think you're onto something. Kate's gonna hate me for this and Adam will hate me even more, but I think if we're gonna really discuss something like a floor plan or an elevation or a massing model, that we actually revert back to paper and send large drawings to the folks to look at as large drawings. And then you'll see the same thing on your screen, but you'll have a large drawing in front of you that, quite frankly, is just a lot easier to look at.
I mean, even if it's 11 by 17 and not, you know, whatever they are, which I think is generally 24 by something, but that's more helpful.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Kate. Jen?
Hi, please don't give me any paper. I have a big monitor. So just get me out of that.
I'll take a note.
Thank you. Just burn it with everything else. I just want to, you know, a couple of things. I remember back when we first looked at a few different kind of types of schematics, they weren't very specific, that I recall that at least some of the fire personnel were very in favor of a modern building and as a space in which they have to work and often live. And so I'm just going to put that out there so that we don't end this meeting with having only spoken of what vocal, I respect the mayor's opinion, and you know, I'm not stating an opinion. I just remember that was very clear. I also want to say, as someone who's in theory a planner, although I don't do that in my day job, that it's a little bit hard for us to look at these things disembodied from the context. I recognize that the Cumbies and Athens Pizza will not be there forever, but I do, and I don't want to make any specific recommendations and burden you, Katrina, with you know, directives. But when I was looking at that last site plan, and I was thinking, oh yeah, I'm thinking of those schematics that you showed us, you know, a few months ago. That was sort of side on swooping. That's not what we're gonna see often, and so we will to some extent, and especially, you know, whenever, if something happens to Athens in 30 years, which I hope it doesn't, but I do think that we need to be mindful of kind of that straight on streetscape and the context, and then also kind of that view as you're coming up the hill. And those are just two design challenges, but like, you know, this has context. And then my last thing is, I'm just gonna always say this, I just hate one-story buildings. I think it's a waste of space in urban. I know it's more expensive and blah, 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 and elevators, but not using height and density is just a mistake in our urbanscape. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Jen.
If you want to say some more, I'll certainly recognize you. Anybody else? Okay. So we have something to look forward to. Neil, anything else from you that as we on this topic or as we go down the agenda? I think, is that it?
Nothing comes to mind, Dave.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anything that anybody would like to talk about in general that you think might be important now, because we're at the end of the agenda? Thank you for all your good. Yes, Carol. Carol, yes.
So a few things that I'm a little embarrassed, but if I'm going to be thinking about this, the drawing that was up there, the floor plan or you know, the site plan, the north or the top is Main Street, correct?
Yes.
And so what you were talking about is just the constraints of the site. That's pretty much how the footprint has to be. Right? Did I
Roughly,
get that?
yes, yes.
Okay. Because I was just trying to look at traffic flow and all of that while I was taking that in. But we'll get those as a follow-up so we can digest it further, right?
Yes.
Awesome. The other thing is I have so many opinions about so many things, and architecture is definitely one of them. But I'll stay out of that. But the one thing I just wanted to say is regarding the glass and stuff. I personally think that we can there's always the argument against modern versus traditional, and everyone wants things to look like they've always looked in New England. However, at one point those buildings were new and nobody liked them because they were so crazy and different. So that's how progress happens. But more just to the point, I just wanted to say that glass does provide a lot of great benefits, and it's lovely to have. But I'll just add that in terms of energy, it can work either way. Glass is not a great insulator, so usually if there is a building with a lot of glass, there's other ways to kind of compensate for that, so you can have a really tight envelope. So I would say that in terms of energy, that shouldn't really play a part in how the design process happens, and that we can do whatever we want and make it super tight and beautiful and appealing, and everyone will be happy for the first time ever in Greenfield. Thank you.
Fairy tales will come true. It can happen to you. Okay, anything else?
David, could I speak for a minute?
Oh yeah, Chief, where'd you go? Yes.
I had to run out, so I had to go to my car on the phone. So I just wanted to say two things about first the glass issue. Most modern firehouses that I've seen, their apparatus space incorporates a lot of glass, and there's reasons for that. Besides making it a modern-looking station, having a lot of abundance of sunlight on the apparatus space it's pretty important nowadays. With that aside, I do want to say again, thank you to our DPW for doing such a great job. But I wanted to take a moment to recognize my firefighters for the last, well, really 6 months, but really picked up the last week or so with the amount of effort that they have done to physically move the firehouse. It is daunting and overwhelming and frustrating at sometimes, but the firefighters are really stepping up, and they're doing a great job, and I really wanted to give them some praise for their effort. This week's going to be a tough week, but we're getting through it, and I just wanted to say that publicly. Thank you.
Bravo. Thank you, Chief. Thank you. That was good. Good way to end the meeting. Anything else? I have a motion to adjourn.
David, next meeting?
Oh, thank you. Next meeting, as far as I'm concerned,
23rd.
would be the
23rd,
23rd.
right?
Unless, yeah, we're gonna go back on schedule. Thank you. Thank you, Dennis.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, may I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Gene. If you want to adjourn, say aye. Mayor,
Aye.
Butch,
Aye.
Chief,
Aye.
David, Carol,
I
Amy, Steve don't look like they've showed up. Jen,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
Gene,
Yes. Aye.
me, aye. Okay, thank you, everybody. Good job as usual.
Thank you.
Hopefully next time we will have an agenda item that will say, talk about closing on Main and Coombs. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
We're getting there, like squeezing, like me squeezing through a pipe about this big. I'm coming out the other end,
Bye,
no
all.
matter what.
Better you than me, Dave.
Thank you. Good luck, Mayor.
You're coming behind me, Neil.